Yes, guys, welcome back to the Cossy Arsenal podcast. My name is Cossy. Welcome back to brand new video. Everyone assumes Arsenal will beat Bayern and blow them out of the water. So the question is, how do Arsenal do it? In this video, we are going to answer just that. How Arsenal get over this Bayern side. They're not really as bad as everyone really thinks, and they're not as good as anyone actually thinks as well. So they are a really trash side, but need to be respected. And I think Mikel Arteta, one thing I love about him is he respects these teams. He respected Porto, he respected PSV, he respected all the teams we played in the group stages, and I know he will respect Bayern, and that is the problem Bayern are going to get in this game. They would love Arsenal to come and open up and do all this kind of disrespectful stuff. I don't think Mikel Arteta is actually going to do that, which means we might have a very long evening for Bayern fans tonight. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel as well. Let's delve into how Arsenal get around this Bayern Munich side. So the first thing I put on my list is, first and foremost, don't allow Bayern on the counter attack, and that is very key, and that is very important. That is why when I was doing this, I say that we need to go with Jakub Kiwior over Alexander Zinchenko at left back, and I also thought that Ben White, this is your game. Like, this is your typical Ben White game. Now, the issue with Bayern is they do not have, the control over games they used to have. So you're not going to see the Bayern of Bastian Schweinsteiger, Thiago Alcantara, Toni Kroos, Javi Martinez. You're not going to see that Bayern. You're not going to see that level of control in these games. And that means that because they don't have a lot of control, because they no longer control games, they're going to look to sit back and pounce on spaces in behind. And they do have players to actually do that. Serge Gnabry, Leroy Sané, and my boy, obviously, I'm sorry, he is my boy, Jamal Musiala. If he was at Borussia Dortmund, I would be speaking about this guy every single day, right? Like every single day. But of course, Jamal Musiala is one player that is really a big threat in behind. And one thing we saw against Manchester United is that he can carry the ball and he can do things by himself. So when we look at the gems in the Premier League and the gems in Europe right now, the young gems in football, you look at players like Jude Bellingham. I think Bellingham can carry the ball himself, but not as quite effectively as Jamal Musiala. Look at the likes of Pedri. Again, he needs a network around him. The likes of Saka, he needs a network around him. Phil Foden, he needs a network around him. That is one thing that Jamal Musiala is excelling at right about now. He doesn't need a lot of support. And when you play that ball in space, in behind, he's going to be able to utilize the spaces in behind. And that is one thing Arsenal cannot allow. You cannot allow Musiala, Gnabry, Sané to run in behind. You cannot allow them to have any kind of joy on the break. So that means that Arsenal might not want to play a little bit or too high up the pitch. I know we'll play too high up the pitch because we'll have possession and we will control the game. So I think we'll have our defenders up to this point, right? Maybe up to that point. And the scare is this space in behind. Now, with Mikel Arteta, you've got to trust him. He's one of the managers that actually deal with that very well. Sorry about that. He's one of the managers that absolutely deal with that very well, and I still think he will deal with it. He's dealing with a team that has got so many runners in behind. So you can't allow Bayern to run in behind. You can't allow Bayern to have those counterattacks. They will hurt you, right? And of course, the likes of Harry Kane, he's got the pace, he's got the finishing, and he's got the football IQ. He knows if William Saliba is high up the pitch and Gabi is high up the pitch as well, then I could utilize that space in behind. And they've got players as well in that midfield that will find the runners. And this is where Arsenal have to do their homework very right. And that's why I said that for me, Thomas Partey in this game must start, and he must be matching up with Joshua Kimmich, and of course Declan Rice could be matching up with Leon Goretzka, whatever, right? Whatever the partnership is, we must deal with them, because these are the two players in this midfield that will find the run of Musiala Ken Nabry, and the likes of Alphonso Davies, who we know he'll bomb up the pitch a lot of the time, and he's got the pace and he's got the technical ability to hurt this Arsenal side. So that is one thing that Arsenal have got to focus on. Can we stop the counter attack? Can we stop the break from this Bayern side? If we can do that, then that is advantage Arsenal. The next thing I've talked about is don't play a slow game. Pace and tenacity are the key to beat Bayern, and I've talked about that during my predictions, and I'll say it again. When Bayern lost to Heidenheim and they lost to Borussia Dortmund, there are few key lessons we could actually take away from that. And one of the key lessons is tenacity, energy, and pace. I said yesterday, Bayern don't have willing runners. They don't have willing energy. I think they do have willing. I think they have runners in the team, but they don't have willing energy. They don't have players that are willing to sacrifice everything for a 90 minutes joy. They don't have players that are willing to run high up, up and down the pitch for 90 minutes, right? And that is what Arsenal have. That is what clubs like Liverpool have. That is what clubs like Bayer Leverkusen, unbeaten this season in all competitions, that is what they have. They have willing runners. You look at the likes of Tar, you look at the likes of Grimaldo, you look at the likes of Jeremy Frimpong. They have energy. You feel the energy. And even players like Granit Xhaka, who are 30 plus, you feel the energy. It's the same thing with players like at Arsenal, and players like Jorginho. He's old, but you feel his energy. Declan Rice, young, but the energy is there. Of Odegaard, for me, he's the best pressing midfielder in the world right now. Then you think about the likes of Saka. He's barely 22. Martinelli, barely 22. Gabriel Jesus, he's insane. Absolutely insane, the levels of energy brings to this Arsenal side. So don't play a slow game, and don't play don't try to slow the game down. Try to take the game to Bayern and try to confuse them. The speed is going to absolutely devastate them. And I think in that, Arsenal have Gabriel Martinelli, who can affect this part of the pitch very well. You have the likes of Saka, who can affect this part of the pitch very well. And down through the middle, that is where Gabriel Jesus and Martin Odegaard are absolutely going to be key for us, because we know Odegaard and Jesus, or Odegaard and Kai Havertz, are always the two players pressing from this area around here. So if Arsenal if we can only get to press high up the pitch effectively and win the ball back and do those quick transitions, it's going to be a nightmare for Bayern. But we cannot afford to play a slow game. We cannot afford to have a game where Bayern are resting. We cannot allow them to have a rest defense that is not doing any kind of work. We've got to press them. We've got to do the quick transitions, and we've got to create the chances from those quick transitions. And we've got to be effective, highly, highly effective. Which takes me to my third point, and which takes me to the third way Arsenal will beat this Bayern side. Allow them to play, allow them some possession, and then force the mistakes, bait them with some possession, and then force mistakes out of them. So the one thing we've seen from Bayern, probably we've seen so many things from them this campaign, they cannot hold on to the ball effectively. And whenever they lose the ball, it ends up to the edge of their penalty area or inside their penalty area. So that's what Mikel Arteta is going to have to do. We might have to take a risk. Yes, we are good in terms of controlling possession and controlling the ball, but that might not give us the highest result that we want against this Bayern side. So what Arsenal have in this team, and I'm going to show you something very interesting. We have ball winners, right? We have ball winners. We have players that work hard and players that are willing and always win the ball back. So let's drop Martin Odegaard right around here. Partey, and then the likes of Jakub Kiwior could go back, and the likes of Gabriel could go back as well. So what you have in this Arsenal side is possession winners. Declan Rice is the best at that in the world, but so is Thomas Partey. Then you have Martin Odegaard, who is very good at pressing, and of course that means that you can win the ball back, quickly high up the pitch. and so is Gabriel Jesus. You have the likes of Bukayo Saka, who are always willing to come back and help out with Benjamin White in terms of defensive duties, and so is Gabriel Martinelli. So what this actually does is that it means that even if Bayern have some sort of possession, Arsenal are not worried. We are not worried that we will not get the ball back. We are not worried that we will fail to cope with Bayern's control of the game and possession. So why don't we let them have some possession, some bit of possession, lure them out of their defensive shape? Because defensively, they are not good, but they do have some good names there. I think Kim is a good centre back. I think Natas Talit, Upamecano, those are really decent centre backs there, right? And of course, the likes of Alphonso Davies, at left back. I think I don't know if Mazraoui will be back at right back as well. So they do not have the worst defense. But if Arsenal allow Bayern to come on to us and we bait them and we get the ball back and we win the ball back quickly, high up the pitch especially, we will hurt them, right? Don't allow them to control you in this part of the pitch. That would be silly. But how about you allow them to control the game up to this part of the pitch, right? Because here, still, they don't have a lot of, a lot of danger they're causing us, but it will suck them in, right? It will bring their defense to the center line. It will allow them to think they can dominate this game. And of course, that is where Arsenal are absolutely devastating. The likes of Leandro Trossard, the likes of Gabriel Martinelli running in behind, right? Winning the ball back at the center line or even in Bayern's half and, just running at them. We did this against Brighton very, very well, and I thought it really did work very well, especially on the second goal. You saw that Arsenal win the ball back after Saka is gone down. We win the ball back. We started a little bit quicker. Jorginho is already in the penalty area, and so is Kai Havertz, and we have a goal, right? So that is one thing I would love to see. But also, we saw something very similar against Brighton on the third goal. What we saw in that game was Arsenal allowing Brighton to come on to us because we are defensively astute and we're defensively sure we can deal with them. When Arsenal win the ball back, Leandro Trossard is already on his way and we release him, and of course Bayern will not be able to deal with that as well. So I think we could allow them to have some bit of possession and then we can pounce on them. I could be wrong, I could be right, but I think if you let Bayern have some possession and they don't use it right and you don't allow them to use it right, Arsenal will benefit even better from that game. Now, the rest of the points for me are quite very, very simple. Be very clinical. That is number one. Don't stop running, don't stop pressing, and don't give away silly mistakes to this Bayern side. Bayern a very, very good side, and I've written down my notes there very, very clearly. They're a side that will hurt Arsenal. They're a side that have everything it takes to beat this Arsenal side. They have everything it takes. Maybe they don't have the morale. Maybe they don't have the momentum, but they're still a decent side, right? They're better than Brighton. They're better than Luton. They're better than Sheffield. They're better than Burnley. And hell yeah, they're better than Man United and Chelsea combined this season. So we're talking about a team that has beaten Mainz 07, I think 8 or 9 goals to nil. We're talking about a team that has had a 7-0 performance, not very, very far away from from the distance of time. So that means that Bayern also can be impactful when they decide to be, right? So don't be wasteful. Get your chances, use them. That's why Gabriel Jesus is a scare for me in this game, although I'd love him to start. And also, don't stop running. I think Arsenal never stop running. Don't stop pressing. We never stop pressing. Don't give away silly chances, right? Against FC Porto, I think Arsenal in the first leg, that should have ended 0-0. That should have ended 0-0. But we gave away a goal, in my opinion, that shouldn't go into the back of the net. We shouldn't allow such a goal to get into the back of the net. And when we did that, the repercussions were very, very scary. Almost lost the UEFA Champions League run to FC Porto, although we were always favorites against them. So for me, it's about concentration, it's about belief, it's about professionalism, and it's about getting the job done. And I trust this Arsenal side, they will get the job done. So that is how I think Arsenal can beat Bayern in this very interesting encounter. And obviously, when we win this game, or if we win this game, the game at the Allianz Arena will be totally redefined.